No, I just typed it in there. I was just asking about the R naught of chickenpox, and I joined a half hour late, so forgive me. You may have already covered it.
Oh, no,
Um,
no,
I,
no, no problem at all. Yeah, we started off with just the infectious disease triangle and breaking the circle of infection and what R naught means and what R effective is. So yeah, various infectious agents have their own innate R naught. It just is a measure of their infectivity and transmissibility. It's, chickenpox, as Amanda said, is about a 5 or 6. Is that correct?
I think it was higher than that. It was 10 to 12. It was smallpox that was 5 to 6, I
Oh,
think.
it's 10 to 12. Okay, it's
Yeah.
highly infectious. Okay.
Yeah.
so that brings up the question of when I was younger, I came from a very big family, and when I was younger, when one of us got the chicken pox, what my family, an extended family, did was it sounds crazy, but we had what's called chicken pox parties, where they got everyone who hasn't already had it closer together and kind of leave everyone else away from them, and it was used to build immunity. And of course, we'd get the chicken pox, but then we would be immune to it later. So I didn't know if there was anything like that, or is it not safe to do anything like that for something like this? And if not, why not?
Okay, so I don't know the mortality rate of chickenpox. To be honest, I don't know the mortality rate. I know the morbidity rate is extremely low with chickenpox. It is a childhood disease. There was a question regarding whether varicella zoster causes any problems afterwards, and we know that it can reemerge, it can stay and remain dormant along the nerve cells in your body for decades and cause shingles later. All of that is, the basics of it, but it's not a deadly disease, right? And so one of the other many reasons why we don't create vaccines against n number of diseases, the vaccines that we have focused on creating against the diseases that are diseases that cause very, very significant uh, morbidity, which means after that you get the disease and you recover, you're scarred for life, like polio or smallpox or measles. Um, and also they're the ones that kill. So with a unknown, let's call it for now, mortality rate, uh, a case fatality rate of anywhere between 1.5 and 13%. This is not a disease to be experimenting with in terms of the building of immunity. We covered a little bit about herd immunity and why it's not wise, why the Sweden experiment is not a sustainable one between now and the time where we do have an effective vaccine. They will lose, compared to their neighbors, Finland and Norway, they will lose 10 times the number of people. They've already lost 10 times, and they will continue to lose 10 times the number of people to death, okay, than those that have adopted a much more conservative approach to managing the disease. So try to answer your question. It's not wise for us to try and either at the family level or the community level just let it spread and then have cross our fingers that we're right. 80% of the people will recover without much problem, which is, I think, not true. Because I'm talking to patients that are 35 years old and hikers and healthy and suffered a 5-week course of disease and have recovered and are negative, and are now suffering with low oxygenation. Home pulse ox is in between 80 and 90. They're racing hearts. There is not a definitive recovery for everyone that we normally think will get through this and they'll be fine. Okay. This has killed marathon runners. This has killed, mountain climbers. This has killed people as young as 18 years old. We don't know enough about this to just say, you know what, let it ride and let's see what happens.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what bothered me about that hearing today. Rand Paul was going on about, oh, the Sweden model, and yeah, we should be doing that. And it's like, no.
Well, look, I mean, everything in life, everything's a histogram. In science, everything's a histogram. On one end, you're going to have the extremely conservative approach like New Zealand and Taiwan. Lock everything down, lock everyone away, minimize the number of deaths to like, you know, single digits. And that has a cost, but it also has a benefit. Okay. We don't know how many thousands of lives were saved by doing that. And we also don't know how many lives were not ruined with the sequelae of having been sick and not being able to get back to work. Okay, because there's going to be tens of thousands. We've got 1.3 million cases in this country. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of people who have been sick for as short as 2 weeks and as long as 5 weeks or longer. And then they're going to struggle to try and get back into the workforce because they are carrying scarred lungs or, you know, scarred kidneys or something. And they're going to require hundreds of thousands of dollars more of healthcare throughout the rest of their lives. So there's a financial burden, there's an economic burden, there's a productivity burden to just letting the disease run its course. Okay, it's not just about what it costs right now, it's about the next decade of dealing with these people that are recovering versus the 1,300 that are going to need care in New Zealand that got sick and recovered. We've got 1.3 million. Okay, so we have to think broader than just that. I know small business is hurting, and you've got advocates, like I said, on the other end, on the, you know, the very not conservative. What would you call it? Let's say just it's a more a business focused, you know, economically focused approach of there's also huge detriment in keeping people home for months and to the economy, and we need to also look at that factor. And maybe addictions will go up, and there'll be suicides, and alcoholism will increase. And yeah, there's no doubt there's evidence for that as well. There's even evidence that, you know, that women are being abused more. This is horrific. It's all horrific. And they're advocating, let's get back to normal as soon as possible. And you know, I saw a piece by I think Smerconish, and he presented the data beautifully, and he's right. There's a cost to that as well. So everything's a histogram, and we got to find a balance between opening up and just free, you know, doing it without caution, and then doing it so cautiously that this actually deepens the crisis for a group of people that are really, you know, hurting already. So that's my take on it. And I don't want to stray too far into socioeconomics. So this is really about the biomedical stuff. If you want my opinion on socioeconomics, you can go to my page, and it's not very pretty. But anyway, more questions. Where are we, John?